You're listening to Chaotically Disciplined with your host Shannon and Zaida, two goofy real life rave moms where we chat about fitness, parenthood, and our love of music festivals.
We'll show you that you can have mid time management skills, occasional meltdowns, and be disorganized as fuck, but still always get shit done.
Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about goal setting in the new year and how we approach that, and also how our mindsets have sort of shifted around, just orienting goal setting towards the new year. It can be more of an all year round thing and, um, trying to make it more of a lifestyle change in terms of how you set goals and not just, balls to the walls at a certain point in time and then losing your momentum, which inevitably does happen. But I feel that it definitely has improved, at least on my end, with the SMART goal setting that you introduced to me.
Yeah, it's one of the things you learn. SMART goals is not just like a fitness thing. It is really important in the fitness realm, but you can apply it to anything, business models, all kinds of stuff. It's taught in multiple different like areas of life, but obviously for us, it's going to be super applicable to setting fitness goals, but it is how I set other goals too, like any sort of personal or professional goal. A popular joke, I guess, that people say, like in the fitness space, a lot of times is like, oh, diet starts on Monday or this starts on Monday, right? Which makes logical sense. Even I still operate that way where it's like everybody starts a program on a Monday, typically not even a Sunday. Because you have Sunday to kind of like mentally prepare for what you're about to do, grocery shop, meal prep, rest. Your work week starts on a Monday. So any goal starts at the beginning of like the work week. And so when people set like really big goals for themselves, they want to do it on January 1st, like the beginning of the year, which that's fine. But sometimes, well, what does January 1st land on this year? Let's say it
Mm,
lands on a Thursday. Ain't
Thursday.
nobody starting a goal on a fucking Thursday. They're not. I'm not.
They're
And
throwing up on a Thursday.
we say at the beginning of the year, I get it. It's a fresh start. You're entering this new year, new me, whatever your goals are. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't have to be then. It can be before, it can be a little bit after. Typically, whenever I start new programs for people or people sign up for training in the new year, even if the first is on a Monday, they're waiting until the next week because they've partied, they're still traveling, it's still vacation time. So we all say like the first of the year to like get started, but very rarely are people actually even ready to go by then. So it makes more sense to kind of back it up and get ahead of things. And I know the holiday season is crazy, but if you have some sort of structure during this time of the year, it can be really, really helpful
Hmm.
to at least staying on track with whatever momentum you had going at this point of the year, or it can kind of get your head slowly in the game for whatever it is you're trying to achieve next year so that it's not like such a drastic, like stark thing that you like,
It's not like
thing
a
you're trying to
shock.
like, yeah, like a shock. So that's sort of what I use my Groove Cruise program, which has just started this week. Because Groove Cruise is like the 20 something of January. So it's like second half of January. But the people that have started this program now, like this program is going to take them through Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And so all of these big, crazy holiday events. And most people are able to like hit a fitness goal going into Groove Cruise, even if they're not going. Like these people have kind of already started something that's going to keep them accountable during the holidays, whether or not they're actually attending the festival. Not everybody waits until the new year.
Love this time of year for starting because I feel
Hmm.
like I have a sense of control, honestly, of like my health so much better when it's like, okay, I'm going to be consistent at the gym, or at least even if I'm not like, going 4 days a week, I'm at least trying to like progress myself, in other ways when I am there. And then as I go through the holidays, I feel so much better. I feel just on top of my game somehow.
Right, right. I mean, I don't remember the statistic, but most people, the weight that they're going to gain during any course of a year, it happens in this last quarter of the year. So if you have at least a plan to maintain or hold you accountable, you're at least not going to fall behind. Maybe you're not going to get ahead of your goal, whatever that is, but you won't fall behind. And I used to be like in that, vein of thinking, especially for a group who's like, God, it's in January. This is literally like the worst time. Like we're coming off the holidays. Like that's when everybody tends to put on a little bit of weight. Like even if you're a fit person, a bodybuilding competitor, like this season of the year is typically their bulking season. Like people prep for shows, in the first half of the year. That's when it's easier to shred up. And this time of the year is easier to bulk. Like it's a natural cycle. Um, and that's okay. But your fitness goals, it it is okay if they change throughout the course of the year. They actually should. Like your body composition, your goals, all that stuff, the life you're living, the busyness that you have, the stress levels, like that stuff all fluctuates. So your fitness goals should too.
Or you have a
Um,
new baby.
yeah, or you have a new baby, like stuff changes. You get sick, you get injured, you can have, stuff going on with your family, like all kinds of things change. So whatever goal if you're setting one goal for January 1st for like the whole year, that is not really realistic. That's not really how it should be. But having something to keep you accountable during the time of the year that people tend to fall off track statistically the most can make such a big difference for setting the tone for how that year starts and all the goals that are going to trickle down and come after it.
Right, it
So,
can prevent panicking too. You don't wanna let yourself panic if you get so far behind and then the New Year's there, off especially after all the traveling. Just the traveling itself and being off of your routine is enough to just, like,
mhm,
take you off your feet. And so I find that it helps prevent that because you have at least been putting in that effort beforehand, and then you get to that point, maybe everything was chaotic, which it is, because we've talked about this before, where, like, especially Christmas time, once it's December, it's like a vortex, and you're just
mhm.
like, "What fuck just
Yeah,
happened
you don't know
once
what day it
Christmas is
is.
over."
Yeah, you're surviving off of like 5 sugar cookies a day and
Jeez.
coffee.
Yep. Peppermint mocha all day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Makes for a great leg day. Oh my goodness. But yeah, so like there's a couple of things I want to touch on, which is, we are familiar with SMART goals. Like, I know I already mentioned that, like how that applies specifically to fitness goals or anything you want to apply it to. But SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So those are the ways that you can set a goal for yourself that is both challenging, but not so challenging that you're going to set yourself up to fail and then feel like there's just no way you can achieve that. Because that is the balance that everybody needs to strike when they're setting any kind of goal, a fitness goal, personal, professional, business, whatever it is. Like, it, you don't want to set the bar so low that you're not doing any sort of development in any way or growth or progress because it's like, well, that wasn't hard at all for you to achieve. So you want to set it high to where it's a challenge. You have to work for it. It takes some planning and it does take some sacrifice. There has to be some level of that, but it can't be so ridiculous that there's really no actual like it's one thing to like, shoot as high as you can. Like there is something to be said for that. But like if it's something you're really wanting to achieve, it can't be so high that it is, like, not humanly possible for you to hit
Right.
that because you're going to fail, and then you're gonna feel terrible, and then it's gonna make you not have the confidence to set any goals like that in the future because you way, like
Overshoot it.
well, it's like me having never run a day in my life and saying, like, "In 2 months, I'm gonna run a marathon." No, I'm not. Like, I'm not. Like, maybe I'll finish it, but I'm not running it the whole thing, and I'm gonna feel terrible. It doesn't mean you can't get there, but you have to set, like, little benchmarks. So, we'll start with the first thing, which is a specific goal. So, people, for what I deal with, someone comes to me and they're like, "I wanna lose weight." That's not specific. Like, I wanna get a trainer, and I say, "Why?" "Okay, what is your goal?" "I would like to lose weight." "Okay, how much weight do you wanna lose? Give me a number. Give me, a pant size you wanna fit into. Give me body step measurements." Like, get as specific as you can with the details of what that goal is, and we start there. So
Just challenging in itself, because I remember, like,
right.
specific markers for me almost felt intimidating. I always have claimed like I'm not a numbers person, which I am not very much attached to numbers all the time. When it comes to like weight and stuff, I tend to be like whatever. I just go for how I want to feel and how I want to look. But at the same time, you get limited when you aren't specific enough because you only get so far. I'm not actually doing the work that needs to be done. That is
That's what it
specific.
is. So the thing with getting specific, why that feels so uncomfortable and why people don't like to do it is because that is the first thing that you're putting out into the universe and saying out loud that you're committing to. So it feels very scary. It's much easier for me to say I would like to lose weight and be very vague about that. So maybe the number I want to lose is 15 pounds, and that is actually the true number, but I'm scared that I'm not going to be able to do it. So it feels easier for me to just say, I would like to lose weight. Because if I just lose 1 or 2 pounds,
Safer.
then I can feel like I can justify that. Well, I did lose weight. Like, and my brain will know that it wasn't nearly as much as I wanted to lose, but I just said I wanted to lose weight. So that feels safe. So when people don't want to get specific, it's a safety thing, which it's human nature. Like, it's very uncomfortable to get specific because then there is a chance that you could fail at that. That's not comfortable. So people don't like to get specific, but you have to get specific because then that's how the rest of the things are going to fall into place and you're actually going to be able to do it. So not wanting to get specific comes out of fear of failure. And that's why people who don't get specific never achieve their goals. And so they can brush it off much easier. They can blow it off much easier when they don't do it because they never actually said it out loud. And it's really important to say it out loud. It's really important to write it down with your hands. Like, a note in your phone is great, but like to actually write it down or say it out loud to someone or tell somebody else this is your goal makes it more real and you're going to be more likely to do all the other things on the list, on the SMART goal list and put things into practice to achieve that. So,
And have you had that happen with goal setting for lifting weights? Like,
mhm,
have you had that happen with your clients where they have these measurable goals for PRs and stuff like that? And
yeah,
yeah,
I
and
have.
have you
So
seen them
like
be
so
in
good
that same mindset?
yeah. So like for me, anybody who's followed me, knows forever I've been trying to chase this 10 pull-up goal, right? And if I had just said, I would like to be able to do pull ups, I've achieved that already, right? Now, I would have known I would like to do 10, but on the outside, everybody would think that I'm like a great success because I can do a few. Um, but you have to say a very specific goal. So I'm still chasing that. And it is quite possible that if I had never said that out loud or told anybody else, I would have given up on that a long time ago
Right.
because I've already gotten some, that's more than most women can get. So, but that's not what I want. 10. I want 10 strict pull-ups. That's very specific. Now, this is these are the parts that I have failed at, right? Like I said, by the time I'm 40, now I'm almost 41 and I still haven't gotten it, right? So there's other things that like I need to put into place to make that there's reasons why I have not achieved that goal because I haven't followed all the SMART goal rules, but it's a specific goal. So I have had clients, I want to run an 8-minute mile. I want to squat my body weight for reps. How many reps? By when? Those kinds of things that getting specific like that,
Mhm.
um, is the first part, and I do have clients do that, and the ones who set those more specific goals, not just I wanna progress my hip thrust or I wanna squat. It's like, "Okay, well, what is the number that you are trying to get to
Something
in
to
order?"
aim towards.
Something to aim towards, right. The next part kind of piggybacks off of what I'm already talking about is measurable. Like, how are you measuring this? Are you measuring it, again, reps, pounds? Are you measuring this? Is it, body stat, like, circumference measurements? How are you measuring? Is it time? This can be applied to like a business thing. Is it your profit? You set a specific goal. How am I going to measure that I'm on track? So that's the next part of it. Um, and the part after that is attainable. You'll see the things on this list, they kind of all connect to each other. Attainable. Is it a goal that you can achieve? Underneath this is realistic. So I'm going to explain the difference because they sound the same. Attainable is I would like to be able to run a marathon, is the attainable goal. Now, that could be an attainable goal in a year, but if my first benchmark is, 3 months, that might not be realistic, may or may not be. But now let's get, kind of let's add something else where let's say I broke my I broke my leg and I would like to be able to run a marathon. That is not realistic in 3 months. It's not.
Right.
It might not even be in 6 months or even a year. It could
Mm.
be realistic one day, but it is neither realistic or attainable right now. So, that can be a long range goal, but you have to break these things up into chunks. So I have this specific goal of wanting to run a marathon. I am measuring it by, XYZ with, my, how often I'm running, what my running schedule is. I'm measuring it by distance. So that's my measurable. Attainable, is this something realistically I can attain? Yes, one day when my leg is not broken anymore and I'm rehabilitated so that's the next thing. It's like, okay, I've got the first 2, but I can't attain this in this time I would like to achieve it by. I have to work on the leg first.
Right. Those are
So
the obstacles and like variables that you
those
have
are
to
the
tune
obstacle
into.
variables that you have to consider is, can you attain it? Yes. Is it realistic in the time frame that you're looking at? That's the next part. So you have to consider your own personal, like you said, variables or constraints on whether or not that's realistic. Like you just had a baby, you're recovering from a C-section. So there's certain fitness goals that maybe down the road are realistic and attainable. But if you were setting based on the timeline, which is the last part, timely, what is the time that you're setting for this? So all these things are connected. So you can hit certain checkpoints on the SMART goal list, and then if one of them is off, then you've created a goal that doesn't make sense for yourself. So if
True.
you're trying to go back to hip thrusting, 300 pounds or squatting your body weight, and you want this to happen by the new year, that is specific and it's measurable and it's attainable, but it is not realistic or timely if your time goal is the new year for you because you're
And my
recovering.
goal is to not like, hemorrhage.
So it can change later. So that's why you have to pay attention to all of the bullet points on the SMART goal list when you're creating a goal. And that's going to help you determine whether it is not challenging enough or too challenging with the specific things that you've listed in the time that you've given yourself to do it. Uh,
It is a humbling process, especially
right.
like when you're a new mother or whatever circumstance you're in that is the constraint, the limit is like, okay, well, I need to remember that I need to bite off what I can actually chew. And you have to kind of be honest with yourself wherever you are in life. Ideally, you would have had these goals that you could set for yourself that are on maybe another level, but life circumstances aren't allowing that right now.
Hmm.
But what
Hmm.
can you set as a goal that might be lower than the standard is what you prefer, but still setting something up for yourself that you could take a step forward?
Um, One book that I didn't finish, but when I was reading it, it was very helpful. It was called The 12-Week Year. And it was a way of measuring your progress and setting goals in 12-week increments rather than like a whole year. You can apply the SMART goals to any section of time, right? So you can apply to like, what would I like to have achieved in 12 months, right? And then you need to break that down into sections. Like you have the first half of the year and the second half, and then you break the year up into quarters, and you
Hmm.
come up with very, very specific and in the 12-week year, that book, it pares things down to the yearly list, and then the half year list, and then the quarterly list, and
Hmm.
then the monthly, and then the weekly, and then what do you need to do every day
Great day.
to be
Yeah.
achieving your goals so
Hmm.
that at 12 weeks you have that first chunk done. So, it can get very specific. Now,
That sounds
we
like
know
a great
how
book
that
though, because
this
it gives you like a whole
it's a
different
good book.
mindset
It
change.
Right. It changes kind of your perspective on because it's how businesses operate. So you can apply that mentality to things that are not business related, but they
Less
they they
overwhelming.
they yeah, they work in quarter 1, quarter 2. That's how businesses tend to operate. So why do people think that when they're setting like a fitness goal, this has to be your body's going to do this one thing all year. That's your goal, the end, and that's what it has to be by December 31st, this goal that I set in January. It doesn't make sense because you're your life has all these other things going on. You have work, you probably have kids, you have like a spouse, you have a social life, you have stress. Again, you have things that you cannot account for, like injury and illness, deaths in
Mhm.
the family, like all of this stuff, like stressful times at work. Like you can't account for all of that because, you're not a
That's it.
robot, you're a person. But that's why it's so much easier. You can have this big overarching goal, but you need to break it up into chunks. And it is also okay if you don't have an overarching goal, like specifically physique and fitness wise, because your body is going to change. You're no one, even the like elite athletes, bodybuilding competitors, whoever you want to like look at. Their job is just to stay in shape and look amazing in pictures. Even their body doesn't stay the same all year. Those great looking pictures that you're seeing posted on like Instagram, those are from like a photo shoot when they looked amazing. That's not how they and that they kind of like reuse all year. Even I do that. I'll take a photo shoot and those are the things that I kind of will use off and on all year long, but people's bodies change all year. That's what they're supposed to do because
Right.
their goals change. They'll go through like a very strength focused phase, and that usually requires that they're eating more, which means they probably have more body fat. And then they'll go through a more like aesthetic goal where maybe their strength dips because that's not the goal anymore, but they look leaner for this specific time of the year. And then it like cycles.
Like you have followed this for the way you set up your programs, and I've been a part of your programs. And so I just love the way that this is the discipline. This is the you need to get a pen to paper or you need to talk to somebody to reflect your ideas. Um, because there's that accountability factor. And it helps also with, I think, the realistic part of your goals. If you have a down ass homie or a trainer or a therapist, because the pain related goals, of course, the recovery goals, I can relate to that. For me, it's just nice to spit goals out in front of somebody because then they could be
Hmm.
like, that sounds kind of intense,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
wow, damn, I don't know if I could ever handle that. It's just been so helpful for me the way that I see the whole year. I don't feel intimidated by the seasons anymore, especially or the holiday season, because I'm like, I already am practicing these sorts of things throughout the entire year. It's not just in the beginning of the year. I will say though, if it's unrelated to fitness and health, those goals can slip away a lot easier,
Hmm.
because fitness and health are something that we're talking about as like our primary goals, the most important things that we're paying attention to. So those are unlikely for me to, I don't know, kind of slip through the cracks. I'm not
It's kind
always,
of what our whole like world revolves around, sort of with our jobs and just the way we are. So for us, those are high on the priority list, whereas for other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not at the top like it is for us because it's not part of who they are or their job. Like it's kind of our identity.
right, especially since it's through the job. It's easier to put the work into it, and I understand when it's you're not in that realm, especially for work, well, it's you just can't focus on it all the time. So I understand that. In summary is just holding yourself accountable, and you know what? If you lose track throughout the year, you just pick it back up. That's the
Hmm.
base is that like you lose track, life happened, okay, picking it back up where I started and not being so defeated when you didn't hit whatever goal you were trying to set for yourself for that certain amount of time. Okay, I didn't hit it. Change the goals, direction, or just be aware of the obstacles that you do have in your life currently. I have to reset the standard for my goal for now, at least, right? Temporary reset, and then maybe shift back to that goal later. Keep getting back up, whatever it is for you. It doesn't have to be fitness, like you're saying, business. It could be related to a personal goal, like a hobby. Like, what were you trying to do a certain
Hmm.
amount of times per week that you're not able to do? I want to paint or do this with my family. Okay, well, we couldn't do it every week. So we're going to try and do it once a month, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a point that I kind of wanted to touch on too. So I'm glad you reminded me of that is like I said earlier, that number, the S, the first part of the SMART is a specific thing. People don't like to do it because I could fail because I actually said it out loud to even myself, or I wrote it down, right? So there's a chance that I might not do this. Whereas if I just hadn't said anything and I didn't do it, like no one knows, and I was like not fully committed. But like once you start creating these lists, you're like committing, and that it is scary because even if you follow all of the rules, all of the SMART goal rules, you've made this specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely goal. and it sounds cool, right? You still could mess it up and not do it. And I do it all the time, all year long. Like I followed this and I still don't quite get it. So here's a couple of things that are still really important about this process and why you should still do it, even if you follow the rules. And I'm sitting here telling you yes, in a perfect world, you follow these rules. That means you're going to achieve every goal that you ever set for yourself. But you can do this to the best of your ability, and you still cannot account for lifing, because it's going to
Life
life.
be lifing.
Life will life, and it will screw up this process. But if you never ever even bother to do this, you're never going to learn how to get better at it. So
Uh-huh.
you have to do it. You have to do it, and it's going to get clunky, and it's probably not going to work the first time. Maybe it will. Maybe it will work the first time, and you'll still learn from that. But you're always, with everything, you're going to learn way more from your screw ups and your failures than you are from your successes. And that's the same thing with goal setting, is you have to do it if you want to actually achieve anything. If you're someone who is floundering constantly, wondering why you can never lose the weight you want to, or gain the strength you want, or achieve whatever the goal is, even if it's not a fitness related thing, you're always wondering why you're such a failure and it never happens, but you've never even bothered to do any part of this process because you're scared.
Mhm.
I get it, but that's why. You're never going to learn how to get better at setting the goal and going after it and learning where you messed that up along the way if you've just never even bothered to start the process. So, like for instance, my 3 personal goals this year were, I wanted to learn how to do like a dragon pistol squat. I
Yeah.
wanted to learn how to either hoop or do light whip. And I think there was like one more personal goal. I can't remember off the top of my head. I've done none of them. None.
You get
So
pretty low in that pistol squat, though.
I could, but like now my knees are messed up. And so I couldn't, again, life, like like I started practicing them and then my knees started bothering me. So I stopped. And the light whip and the hoop, I've never even bought one. So like I haven't bothered to start trying that. I still want to learn these things. They are still written down, but now I have learned, because of how busy my life is with other things, like other fitness goals, other professional goals. Next year, I have time for maybe one. I need to
Mm,
just pick one. So that's
true.
what I've learned about myself, is like 3 sounded like not a lot. It sounded totally attainable, but it wasn't. It wasn't attainable. I need to pick one.
Because once you
Or
open the door to one of them, you realize it's a whole
it was
world.
a whole thing. It was all of them were going to be more time intensive than I thought. So it felt overwhelming and I have done none of them. But if I had never even written them down, I wouldn't even remember that I wanted to do them probably at this point.
I am interested in so many things
Mhm.
that choosing and discerning what's actually the priority, I need to reorganize my priorities because I have
Mhm.
way too many things up in
There's so
la
many
la.
things I want to do.
Yes.
Yeah. And
But
then
maybe
I
even
had
looking at years ahead, being like,
Mhm.
those can fit over here, maybe, but for this year, what needs to happen? What could
Right.
happen?
And I had other professional goals, which I actually did start some of those. One
Woohoo!
of the podcast was on the list. We are going to launch this podcast.
Heck yeah.
And And we did it. We did do that, and I had a couple other professional goals that I got started, some I haven't met yet, but I wouldn't like you said, there's so many ideas and things I would like to achieve in my brain that
Mhm.
I would have gotten decision-making paralysis, for one, if I hadn't written them down and decided which ones I was gonna start executing on, and I didn't meet all of them, but now I know for next year what is more realistic, and I could still pull from that list. Okay, like this is taking me way longer than I thought. So now I need to pare this down even more. But
Mhm.
so writing them down, even when you fail, is going to become a learning process for how you're going to get better at goal setting. So that's the first thing, is just starting that process of setting your goals and following the SMART goal list. Even if for one, there's a chance you could achieve it, and then great. Like you were really good at being realistic and specific and all of that stuff. But if you still don't achieve them, it doesn't make you a failure, because you still started the process, and now you're going to learn how to streamline and set better time-based goals and dates, and actually learn. You're not going to really ever learn what's realistic for you if you never even start this process.
Right?
So at
Just
least
getting
you're
it down
moved.
from your thoughts onto paper
Right.
is a
Right.
step. You're setting these goals that reflect your priorities, but then you also can be like, well, that's kind of like an old, maybe I need to let that go. or shift gears. I feel like that can be
Yes.
really hard for me is to let certain goals go and like at least put them in the back of my mind or
Right.
back pocket
Yeah.
because for some reason it's not the time to do it or it just isn't this ain't working. Like it's old and rusty. Need to move on to the next thing that resonates with where I'm at currently in my life and not just what I wanted to do when I was 18 that never happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too long gone.
Right. So, like, you'll learn even if you fail at the first set of the goal, or however you structured that and it didn't quite work out like you thought, you didn't achieve it, you're still moving in that direction. So, yeah, you're learning from that process, but you've also now created a process that you hadn't started at all. So, that's, the other cheesy cliche saying is like when you set a goal, like fall in, especially a fitness goal, if you fall in love with the process and you create like a routine, and habits around that you like, even if you don't hit the goal by the time that you thought you would, inevitably, if you've created a process and routines and habits around that and you're doing them and they're things that you can execute on the daily, yeah, you can fall off track and things can get in the way, but over time you can be very consistent with that structure that you have created in the direction of achieving your goal, even if you don't hit it in the time that you thought, you're going to hit it. You're
Mhm.
going to hit it. All you were off of was, like, the time that you set for yourself.
I see what you're
So,
saying because you have the structure and that in itself is the inevitable part of the work you
it's
have to
going
do.
to get you to the goal. Like,
Mhm.
the thing that you didn't account for was probably, other the life things along the way, the injuries, the illnesses, parenthood, like, stuff like that. You didn't properly account for that because that's really hard to really account for, that extra time cushion of, like, being thrown off sometimes. If you've created the process to get you to the goal, even if you don't get to the goal in the time that you were planning, but you're pretty, like, cool with the process, all you have to do now is adjust the time. Like, you're gonna get there. So, that's another reason why it's still just important to just start on the goal, and kinda circling back to what we were saying in the beginning, yes, it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with New Year's resolutions or, like, starting on a Monday or starting at the beginning of the year, but that shouldn't be, like, the one time that you're setting goals, and and you can, yes, use that sort of for, like, you can use January 1st or, first Monday of January or whatever however you wanna say it as what you're setting your overarching goals for, but
Right,
it
big picture.
shouldn't stop there. It should be broken down into more digestible chunks
Mhm.
so that you can have, like, shorter markers to make sure that you're on your way to achieving the big, like, yearly goal. If I was someone who had, 50 pounds to lose or, like, a large amount of weight, I know I keep saying weight loss. That's not the only goal, and it shouldn't be the
That's
only
one of the
goal. It
most
is not
common
it is
goals.
not the most important goal for people to have, but it is a very popular one, and since I work in the fitness space, that is a very popular one, is weight loss. So let's say I'm someone who had, like, a really large amount of weight to lose. That can seem, like, very daunting and overwhelming to the point of me not even wanting to bother because it is such a huge amount and there's so many changes that have to happen for me to even get there that it feels impossible.
Mhm.
And, same thing, we can go back to the injury. If I break my leg and my dream, my goal was to run a marathon, that sounds so far away from me getting there. Like, because I have a broken leg, like, how is that ever gonna happen? So you can set that entity your goal for being the 50-pound weight loss or the running a marathon in a year, but if that is it, that's it's a it th that is such a long process to get there, and it feels really overwhelming, so it would be so much more helpful for you to break that down into quarterly chunks, monthly chunks even, like, focus on losing the first 5 pounds of the 50, like that, so then you can celebrate that achievement and then kind of reassess and reevaluate, "Okay, so how did it go for me to do that first 5 or 10? Like, can I do that again for X amount of weeks? Was that really, really hard? Did I not really give myself enough time to achieve that first 5 to 10 mile goal, and I felt like I was white knuckling it, so maybe I should give myself a little bit more of a cushion." Same thing with, like, the running with a broken leg. Okay, well, what's the first thing I have to do to rehabilitate my leg? Like, what are the steps, you know?
How long do tissues take to actually mend themselves? Like, and I
Mhm,
think that also what's interesting about the, the timeliness and the, quarterly checks, however you're breaking it up in the year, it also serves as like a disciplinary checkpoint. You check
mhm,
yourself and you're like, okay, I said I was going to do all this, but the walk is totally different than the talk. And
mhm,
it feels like, oh, I made a goal. I have these goals. It feels like it's amazing. It's all going to happen. But then I'm not really staying consistent with the work to do there. It's easy to feel like you're walking in the right direction. And you might be, but are you actually sticking to what you said you were going to do? I think that
mhm.
is an interesting thing to check yourself on because it might feel differently than it actually is.
Right.
Does that make
One
sense?
checker. Yeah, yeah. Well, both of these things, trying to decipher what the goal should be, what a realistically challenging way to set that goal up is, and then how to achieve that is why it's really important to work with somebody
Yes.
on this and not you shouldn't feel like you have to do that alone. And yes, going to a physical therapist or hiring a trainer, these things cost money. They do. Very, very rarely are you going to find these things for free, right? Like but these are things that it's sort of it's where is it important? Where do you place value on spending your money and investing, you know, your time and your money into something? Like w- we all put value in different things. And so if this is something that's really really important to you, achieving this health and fitness goal or this, you know, whatever it is, and you can't figure out how to get started or how to create like realistic, you know, checkpoints, and you feel like you're failing or you don't even know how to get started and that's overwhelming, it is it would probably be worth considering investing your money and placing value in someone who can look at that objectively, who can help you create the plan, who can hold you accountable, who can pick you up when you feel like you failed because maybe you still bit off more than you can chew, or you know, life got in the way. You were doing great and life got in the way and now you're like, I have to figure out how like this now I can't do this goal anymore. I have to reevaluate how I set this up. But I don't know what to do. Because you're when it's you, it's hard to to see the answer. When you have somebody else helping you whose literal job is to come up with that plan. Like
Right.
your you know, a physical therapist is going to help you figure out how do you rehabilitate this broken leg to be able to run a marathon? Like they're going to come up with a realistic plan that would be challenging so you're working it but not so challenging that you feel like you're going to fail. And if you had a patient come to you and say I want to do this in 3 months, you would tell them like, okay, it can happen one day. It's not going to happen in 3 months. Same thing. Like I have clients all the time that are like, I would like to lose 20 pounds in a month. And I'm like, you're not going to do that. And I'm not saying you're not going to do that ever, but safely and healthy and like not hating your life, I'm not going to let you do that. But this is what you can do. This is what we can do. And this is what it will take to get even half of that is still going to be a lot of work. Is that something that you think you can do?
Mhm.
So hiring someone to help you can be super beneficial if this is a goal that's really important to you because they'll be able to tell you how realistic that is, or how to maybe reframe that goal a little bit differently to where you're still moving in the direction you want, but it's not going to feel crazy. Like, I work with a lot of people who have busy jobs, who are parents, and I've worked with clients for years and years and years, and the goals are constantly changing. And we're trying to figure out, like, okay, is this a really good time of the year? And based on what's going on in your life, for you to do a cut? Is this a good time for you to do a bulk? What is your travel schedule? What is your schedule with XYZ? Like, and a lot of times they'll come to me with a goal, and I'm like, maybe I think right now is a better time for you to work on this goal instead. And then after this part of your life slows down, then you can revisit this goal. To whereas if they didn't have me, you know, or whoever, if someone didn't have a coach or someone else in their ear kind of like giving them a different perspective, they might do that thing, fail, and then never work on achieving it again.
Right, you don't
because
wanna
they weren't able.
overload the person, especially when you are working with somebody and you are like, "Okay, you could do 1,000 different things for this one issue you're having," but they can only do 2 things a week or 1
Mhm,
thing a week
mhm,
because of how their mental processes and their life and all the things that they're going through, so you have to, like, meet people where they are, but then also meet yourself where you're at. What can you actually
mhm.
feasibly do?
A good, you know, ther physical therapist, good trainer, they're gonna take all these things into account. Like, what does the rest of your life look like when you're creating these goals? So,
Mhm.
what is, again, just challenging enough? What is the time that you're giving yourself to do? Is this realistic? How hard is this actually going to be? Like, they'll help keep you on track, but they'll also help you learn how to shift the goal if it wasn't quite right based on your situation. And the other perspective that is really important to keep that I have to remind myself, I remind clients all the time is you shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people for all the reasons that we just said is one person can be achieving these goals and it looks pretty seamless, but maybe they're like 25 and single and they don't have to worry about themselves, which I'm not no shade like that's great. But if you're, a mother that works with two small children and you have the same goals as 25-year-old, it's not that you can't achieve it, but the amount of time you can devote to it is going to be very different, so it may take you longer. So there's all these other factors that come into play.
Totally. Yeah, you have to reframe it just based on your own personal life, and that's why comparison never is helpful. Um,
The other thing with comparison, so you should just be comparing you to you, right? Don't compare yourself to other people. But I say this all the time to clients too. Compare you to you, but be careful with that also. Because imagine that Zaida now, who has a toddler and a newborn and has maybe the same goal as you did before you even had kids, comparing yourself to like, why can't I achieve this now when I definitely achieved it before children? Like,
all of the time in the world.
why is this so hard for me now? Why or me, like, why is it so hard? I'm 40 and I've done this multiple times. Why is it so hard now for me to get this thing that like even 5 years ago I didn't have to try nearly as hard to do. And I'm just comparing myself to me, I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. But even then, you still have to be very careful because you of right now and you of 5 years ago or however long ago, you're still not the same person. Like, you're still you, but you don't have the same stresses. You are older. You may have had a different job. You may not live in the same place. Like, there's still all these other factors. So,
Different seasons of life. Like, even though we
different
have the
seasons of
different
life.
seasons of training, different seasons of the year, it's
Mhm.
like, different seasons of life that you may never get back to feeling that exact way or have those,
Right,
you won't have that much time ever again. It won't be the
right.
same.
And it doesn't have to be and so when you say this to people, it, like, makes them sad and bums them out, and it's like, "Wow, that sucks." It doesn't have to be it's not a one was better or past you was better and this one is worse. It's just different. What I'm saying right now proves my point even more, where, like, it it even in a year, the you from the start of the year in January and you at the end of the year in December, you could be a very different person. So much of your life and you as a person can change by the end of the year. That doesn't really make sense. Like mentally, emotionally, physically, like you're going to change throughout the year. So just doing this one time, this one big goal, this one time, and this one way you're going to achieve it, and like never wanting to stray from that. And if you stray from that, then you failed.
Right, like,
It doesn't
putting
make
your head
sense. Yes, you should be setting your goals in smaller chunks because and then reassessing. Like you can have a 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals. That's great, but you have to back it up like way, way, way smaller. It's gonna feel more manageable. It's gonna make you feel more successful because inevitably there's probably going to be some things, some markers you might not have hit, but there's going to be some that you are. So you're going to be like, okay, cool. I did do something in the right direction. I didn't hit this. So let's like pull this here. And then you're going to just be constantly growing and reevaluating like how you're working towards the one big goal. But you're
mhm.
going to be able to sit back and take wherever you are currently in your life into consideration. And it will lead you to feeling by the end of the year, you're probably going to be less likely to have that feeling that a lot of people get where they're like, "Wow, this is not where I thought I was." gonna be by the end of the year. This looks very different. I would not have imagined so much can change in a year. This is not where I thought I was gonna be. Like, sometimes that's for the positive, sometimes it's not, but you will be less shocked by that outcome where, like, you of January thought you of December was gonna be if you have broken your goals up into tinier pieces and,
And it
like,
can
kind
be on
of
the flip very positive where you're like, "Oh my
right,
god,
right,
I
it
didn't
could be
expect that
great,
I
you
was
could
gonna."
be way ahead. You like, because maybe you set that big goal, but then you broke it up into quarterly pieces and you're like, "I didn't challenge myself as much as I thought," or maybe you're one of the lucky people who had a pretty uneventful year and you had given yourself some cushion because maybe last year was really hard, so you were like, "Alright, I'm gonna give myself more time to do this because last year was rough." And then this coming year was actually pretty smooth. So like so then you were able to achieve more than you thought. Like let's hope that happens to everybody. But um if you if you just do the one and then you stop there, you're kind of shortchanging yourself in a lot of ways. You're shortchanging yourself because, like we said, you could achieve more, or you're shortchanging yourself because you might not achieve that thing and then you just feel like a failure, which isn't fair because you're not stopping to look at all of the other smaller things that happened along the way that still could be driving you in the direction that you wanted to go. It just might take you longer to get there.
I think that by setting goals, you're actually allowing yourself to practice being more present in your life because you're tuning in with yourself and what you want in life consistently over time. It's not one time, it's throughout the entire year. This isn't like a, oh, if you're disciplined, then you're gonna set goals and you're a hard worker. It's like, no, you're just trying to tune in to yourself and your life circumstances as much as possible to know yourself, to know your life and
Mhm.
what's happening in it and not just tuning out and putting your head down, which does happen. You do have to put your
Well,
head down
yeah,
sometimes in life.
it's just not
Get shit
fulfilling
done.
to be constantly going through the motions and like kind of a jarring saying. I feel like I'm just full of quotes this episode, but complacency is
A little.
death. Like if you get like complacent and you're just comfortable and you're not ever setting some bar in some direction to propel yourself forward, what is the point? Like, you can feel like that, and then that's very depressing, like, terrible way to move through life is to not really move through life at all.
This is, I think, our point that, get on a plan of some sort, whether it's
Mhm.
by yourself, but hopefully with a team, just to
Yeah,
have that support and people to relate to.
yeah. The more people that you have, I mean, at least even if you're not hiring somebody to help you, to have, like, a supportive partner or a friend that can keep you accountable or kind of knows some of the ins and outs of your life can be like such a game changer because any sort of outside perspective for one can help you determine whether that goal is realistic for you and if you're setting it up in a good way. They can keep you on track, they can check in, they can pick you up when you feel like you're not doing great at it. Like, so don't ever feel like it's something you need to do alone. Like, I feel like the best way to make sure that you achieve a goal is to let at least one other person know that it's something you're going after because it makes it real. And that
Yes.
alone can like be helpful and like moving you in that direction.
Yes. Homies help homies. Let a homie know what you're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell this guy what I'm doing. He won't judge me if I fail.
They'll be your biggest supporters. Well, I think we're going to call it for today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
See
tuning
you next
in.
time.
Bye, guys.